Hello and welcome back to episode 3 of the Pomegranate Girl, a knitting and sewing podcast and all-round creative journal. My name is Annie, or you can also call me by my full name, Angharad, whichever is easier to pronounce, and I live in Bristol in the southwest of the UK, and you're very welcome. Let's just get straight on into things. I'm drinking a non-alcoholic mulled wine from IKEA, which I bought a few months ago, which is really tasty. If you're ever in IKEA, recommend trying it. And yeah, it's a Friday afternoon. I normally have Friday afternoons off work. The weather's quite dark, so we're putting up with some unnatural lighting today as a kind of addition. And before actually we get started into things, I wanted to just quickly explain why I'm called the Pomegranate Girl, because I had a comment on my last video asking about it, and it doesn't really make sense. It's nothing knitting related, it's just that I really love pomegranates. So when I started my creative Instagram account that I used separate to my personal one, I just didn't really know what to call myself, so I just called it the Pomegranate Girl because I love pomegranates, I love how they look, I love how they taste. Just quite think the history and the symbolism of them is quite interesting. So yeah, that's the explanation that only one person asked for. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So I've got a few finished objects. I have got 2 that I can show you. I thought I'd be able to show you another one, but I'm not sure when the release date is for something I've been test knitting, so that will have to wait until next episode, and then hopefully I can share it with you. But I have got 2 finished objects I can share with you, a few whips, I've got some acquisitions, just a few, and then I've got some sewing to talk about, and then at the end I'll talk a little bit about what I'm reading, and also just some general festive plans I suppose I've got. I quite like hearing about other people's festive traditions, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about mine at the end. So first off is one of the secret projects that I was talking about last time in episode number 2, and this is a pair of Wave Run socks by Albina Mclaughlin. I'll insert a photo of the pattern here, and they are a beautiful pair of socks with a colourwork band at the top, and I knit these for my boyfriend for his birthday. Ever since we started dating, he's like, when can I get a pair of socks? And I was like, don't really like I think socks are a nice gift because I quite enjoy knitting them. They're fairly quick and you know that people are going to use them, and I just quite enjoy trying out different sock patterns. Because I can complete them quite quickly, it's quite like a nice gift to give. So yeah, I decided to make these for him. I did adjust the sizing slightly, so it comes in 2 sizes, and I knew that he wasn't going to fit the largest size because his feet are quite a lot bigger than mine, so I basically added an extra number of stitches. So the number of stitches that are in the pattern repeat, I added another one of those to the total circumference so that they would fit him, and they did, thankfully. I was a bit worried that they wouldn't. I'll insert a photo of my ones here, actually on his feet. And yeah, I don't have them with me. I've already given them to him. He's already worn them a few times, so I don't really want to show them on the podcast, and I don't think he'd let me. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about them briefly because they were something that I was knitting in my last one, but I couldn't show you because I didn't want to ruin the surprise for him, basically. So I knit these out of John Arbon Exmoor sock, which I have used once before. This was the second time I'd used it, and it's a really nice sock blend. This is what I have got left. So this top colour I think is called Whortleberries, and then this bottom one is called Mizzle, and the colour names are all named after local Devonshire southwesterly slang for objects in nature, which I think is really lovely. And this is a really unusual sock blend. It is 60% Exmoor Blueface, 20% Corriedale, 10% Zorbots and 10% nylon. The Corriedale and the Exmoor Blueface are superwash treated, so it is superwash, but because of the I think it's because of the Zwartballs, it's got this slightly like heathered effect, and it also feels like a slightly more rustic than like a superwash merino nylon. And I personally think that it being a lower content of nylon makes it feel a bit nicer. And it's just a really nice sock yarn to work with. I haven't actually ever knit a pair out of it for myself. I've only ever knitted it as gifts. So I'd be quite interested to try it for myself, so I know how it wears, and how it feels like on the feet. That's because I do think it will probably feel really different to like a superwash merino. Yeah, and it's really lovely to work with. The reason I chose this for his socks was that I knew he wasn't going to want to hand wash them. I knew he'd want something that was machine washable, and I kind of prefer to do that when I'm making gifts for other people, especially when it comes to socks, because you do need to wash them a bit more frequently than you'd say a jumper or a shawl or a hat. So yeah, I wanted to still choose something though that was local, and that I liked the brand of, and that would also work well for colour work, because there is a slight more stickiness to this yarn than say something like a superwash merino. So yeah, I'm really happy with these. He really likes them, thankfully, and they do fit him. And I actually have a whole skein of the navy blue left, as well as this little bit of blue and quite a lot of this grey section, because you only use this for a little bit of the pattern. So I'll definitely, I maybe even have enough to knit a whole new pair of socks for myself, or at least use it within another sock project. I'm not sure. But yeah, really enjoyed knitting those. The pattern's lovely. I've knit some of Albina's patterns before. They're lovely. I love her as a designer. Yeah, so it was really nice to finally knit my boyfriend a pair of socks, and I'm sure it won't be the last. The second finished object I have, and the other one that I can show you, is also for my boyfriend. Lucky him. So this was kind of a last minute thing. I didn't talk about it in my last episode. I hadn't even bought the wool for it. I hadn't cast it on. And it is this hat. So this is in black yarn, which I had never worked with before until knitting this. And it's not my favourite. I obviously now in the UK with the darker nights, it's more difficult to see, and black yarn is just, I had never really realised that it is actually a bit difficult to knit with and see. So this is the Brig hat by Veronique Avery, I believe is how you pronounce it, and it is a Brooklyn tweed pattern. Oh, sorry, you can see one of my loose ends. And this is knit out of Harrisville Designs Nightshades, which is a really lovely wool that I hadn't tried before. It looks like this in the skein, and it is a blend of American Cormo and wool, and it is woolen spun in the USA, and this 100-gram skein has 250 yards in it. It's a DK weight, and this colourway is vinyl. So if you're not familiar with the Harrisville Designs Nightshades, it's a collection of black yarns, but they're all marled with slightly marled with other colours, and vinyl is the colour that's just pure black. I did say, did he want something like slightly more mild, and he was like, no, I just want it black. And so I chose this one, and it's really nice. It's quite different to anything I've worked with. It almost, I can't quite describe how it feels, but it just feels quite different, the texture, to anything I've ever worked with. And I'm not sure if that's the way it's spun or the Cormo, which I hadn't worked with before, but it's really nice, just quite unusual. And yeah, so he wanted, the reason I knitted this is it's gotten quite cold in the UK recently, and he asked me if I could knit him a hat as a Christmas gift. And I was like, yeah, as long as it's like something quite quick and easy. And he wanted something that was basically like a fisherman's cap. so that it comes up like just above his ears. And I was like, okay, well, if I do something like that in like a DK weight, that won't take me very long. And it didn't. It took me less than a week. I'd say like maybe 4 days, knitting on it pretty consistently. And given the fact that I had to rip back one of my cast-ons because I did it wrong, and that includes swatching as well. Yeah, so this is how it turned out. I will try and insert a photo of the pattern photo. It fits him really well. I got him to try it on last night, and yeah, it looks really nice on him. I think he was really happy with it. So this hasn't been blocked. I've taken it back off him so I can block it, and then I will give it to him. And yeah, he's just grateful to have something warm, because yeah, it has gotten a lot colder in the UK, and he didn't have any hats, and I'm not quite sure how that's happened, or he didn't have any he wanted to wear. This pattern I did like, but I don't think I would knit it again or recommend it. The way the decreases are done on the top, I don't know if you can see, I didn't really like how they look. I noticed on Ravelry that a few other people had commented that they didn't like the decrease method. So I don't think I'd knit this again, to be honest, even though I bought the pattern now. And I thought that I bought it so that instead of making something up, because I thought I'd knit it like again and again and again in like maybe different colours and for different people. But yeah, I didn't really like the decreases. So what I think I'm going to do is next time I'm sure I'll probably knit him something similar again. I think I'm going to use the James N. Watts Best Beanie pattern, which is again quite similar, like kind of fisherman style cap. And I think I kind of just prefer the look of that one, and I think the decreases on that look a lot nicer. I just didn't really like the method of how that was done on this pattern, but it still turned out really nice. He's happy with it, which is the main thing, and it's really nice and warm. The other thing I wanted to say was that this was designed for Shelter, which is a Brooklyn tweed yarn that I haven't tried before, and I wasn't sure how soft it was, and I was in a bit of a rush, otherwise I would have gone to like a yarn story, which I know stocks it back in Bath, and like felt it, because I just wasn't sure if it was going to be soft enough for him. He's quite sensitive to wool. So what I wanted to use was is it Gilead, which is by De Rerum Natura, which is a French and Portuguese blend of merino, and they're a really cool company. I've used their wool before. I've used their Ulysses base, which is like a sport weight light DK base. So yeah, I really wanted to use that because I knew that he'd be fine with merino, and it's like a really nice company. They're like quite ethically minded, and I really like how their yarn looks when it's knit up. But they didn't have the colour I wanted. There's been quite a lot of stock issues with it. I've seen there's a few places that stock it, and I tried everywhere that I knew of that stocked it in the UK, and none of them had the cast iron colour, I think is what it's called, or is that the Shelter? Basically the black with that's slightly marred with white. So nowhere had that, so I kind of had to look for alternatives. So I decided on this Harrisville because I looked on Yarn Sub, and that seemed to be a good substitute for Shelter after Gilead, and I thought I'd read some reviews of people saying it was quite soft, which was kind of the main thing for me. So yeah, I think I will try again with Shelter though, maybe knitting a hat for him, because maybe, and then if he doesn't like it, I can always keep it myself, just because I think it probably would be fine, and it isn't even covering his ears, so I think it would be okay. It's just because the forehead is quite a sensitive area, at least for me. I just didn't really want to risk it. So yeah, that is enough about this. Really like the result. He's quite happy with it, I think, but I'm not sure if I'd recommend the pattern. But the wool is lovely, and I bought it from Fig Tree Yarns, which I think is based in Guernsey, which is in the Channel Islands, I think, just off the south coast of the UK, in between here and France. And they sell loads of American yarns. They are the stockist of quite a few like specialist smaller American yarn companies, which is really good to have because otherwise things like that are quite expensive to get hold of. So they're really good. I found them earlier this year. I'll link them down below because they've got quite a lot of things that I've never seen anywhere else. So yeah, I will leave that down below. So moving on to works in progress. I don't think I have, I've got one new work in progress, but the other ones are two that you've seen before. So the first is you probably saw a hint there, a longer term whip that I've had on my needles for maybe like about a month, and it is the DRK Everyday Socks by Andrea Mowry, knit out of Woolly Mammoth Fibre Company's Natural Sock, I think it's called. Yeah, Natural Sock. It's a 50% Cheviot, 50% BFL. I've spoken about it quite a lot. I knit a lot of my socks out of it, and I love Emma's yarn. I think they're so beautiful. And this is the colourway Hibernation, which is this like lilac with this kind of almost acid yellow and darker purple running through it. It's really beautiful. So yeah, I have finished one sock, and these, as you can see, are really long. A lot longer than I usually do my socks, but because I'm knitting them toe up, I wanted to knit them toe up so that I can use everything, or pretty much everything, with only very minimal leftovers. And this is the first time I've knit toe up socks, and I'd really recommend this pattern if you've never done toe up socks before. This is really clear, it explains everything really well. This is like super easy doing this. I think it's a German short row heel. That's super easy. Doing the gusset increases was super easy. Yeah, I don't know why I was so worried about knitting toe up socks, because they're actually so simple. And yeah, I really like this. I'm so excited to wear it. So I have done one, and then I am housing these in my Harriet from Wildwood Stitches, one of her bags. It's my only bag from her, but they are so beautiful. I spoke about it in my last episode. And I have started the other sock, and it is so far not very big. It's looking like this. So I've done the toe, and then I've just started the foot, and I'm just doing this mostly when I'm on the bus, like going to and from work. When I'm in the office, I'm currently only in the office 2 days a week. That was even before COVID. My work's been quite flexible with things like that, which is nice. So yeah, I will probably, to be honest, I will probably put these down a bit until I've got some of my other Christmas gift knitting off the needles, just because I've got some other things that really need to take my priority. But these are good for, like, yeah, going on the bus, traveling. And yeah, I'm just really excited to wear them because they just feel so comfy, as with all of my socks from Emma that I've knit out of Emma's yarn. They're just really nice. I really like them. I've spoken before about how much I prefer non-superwash, no nylon sock yarn, and I actually asked in my last episode if people would like to see a whole episode dedicated to like no nylon, no superwash sock yarn, and actually quite a few people said yes, which was really lovely. So I will definitely do that, maybe before Christmas or maybe in the new year, when I've got a bit of time. I've got some time off work, so I can kind of dedicate a whole bit of time to it, or I might leave it a bit later so that I can try some more kind of brands, because at the moment I've really only tried Emma's, and obviously I've tried the John Arbon Exmoor sock, which is slightly different, but because I haven't kept any of the socks I've knitted out of that for myself, I don't really know how it wears for me. So yeah, I might leave it until I've tried a few more yarns, but I will definitely do an episode discussing it in the future. So yeah, that is whip number one. But as I said, I'm probably going to move on to the back burner just for a little bit. The second whip is one that you've seen many times before, and it is my Talvinen sweater. So if you've watched me before, you will know that I'm knitting this for my mum for Christmas, and this has been a real labour of love. I started this in August, and I'm really now, at the beginning of December, only getting close to the end. That's because I've been knitting other things. I'm not a monogamous knitter, although I wish I was, because I feel like I'd make a lot more progress on things a lot more quickly. But yeah, this is what we're looking like. So obviously you've seen all of this before. I have now finished one sleeve, so it looks like this. So I did the sleeve shaping. I didn't do the body shaping, but I did do the sleeve shaping as per my mum's request. And I have bound off one of the cuffs. I have reached the end of the body, but so I've done all the ribbing. I've made it the length that my mum wants it. She wanted it at quite a reduced length to what is originally written in the pattern. And the reason that I haven't bound off yet is because I'm lazy and I hate doing tubular bind off over like a jumper circumference. I really try to procrastinate it as long as possible. Even if it's something I really want to wear, I'm like, oh, I just cannot be bothered. Like that involves like at least like an hour of like concentration. So I haven't done that yet, but it is ready to all be bound off. I just haven't had the time. So I'll probably try and do that this weekend or maybe this evening. And then I have started the second sleeve. So I've just switched to the first body shaping needle. So yeah, not done a massive amount on this sleeve, but I have started it. And yeah, I am loving it so much. If you're new here, this is knit out of Biches Petit Lambswool, which is a 100% Scottish lambswool. The colourways will all be down below, and I've said this before, but I'm knitting a size 6 to get a size 4 because my gauge was really off. It always is with Caitlin Hunter patterns. I don't think I said this is the Talvinen by Caitlin Hunter. I really like her designs, but yeah, I never meet gauge for them. I always have to knit a bigger size because my gauge is so different to hers, I think. But yeah, this is so lovely. And I'm just so close to being done and I'm so excited. Yeah, it was just a real, like, once I bound off this sleeve, like I felt like a lot of momentum to just finish it off. So you can see it's got this like band of orange, and then the kind of mimics the bottom with these like bubbles and the little like the smaller like flower motif, and then you just do some decreases and then you to kind of cinch it in a bit more, and then you do some ribbing, which went really quickly because it's only short and it's over a way smaller circumference. And then I did a tubular bind off, which I do much prefer the look of. I think it looks really nice, especially when it's a gift for someone else, and I've spent so long doing this that I want to make everything look nice. So yeah, did the tubular bind off. And yeah, just really happy with this. At some point, I'd love to knit one of these for myself, but I can't see that happening for a few years, just because this has been so much work. But I've really enjoyed knitting it. I'd say I'm kind of a mix between a process and a product knitter. I love wearing the things I knit, and I do knit things that I want to wear, but I've really found knitting through trying to relax and trying to like lessen my anxiety. So it's kind of for a multitude of reasons that I've like kept on knitting. So I do really enjoy the process, and I have loved every bit of knitting this jumper. I love the wool. It feels really rustic, but it's not itchy like Let Lopi is. And oh, I'm just really excited to give this to my mum. I hope she really loves it, and yeah, I'm just really excited to give it to her. So yeah, that is my Talvinen, and hopefully by next time I will have finished it. That's a target. My last whip, oh, I'm getting tangled in yarn. My last whip is another Christmas gift knit, and this is one I spoke about last time. I hadn't cast it on, I just spoke about the wool once I'd bought it, and it is the Fither hat by Claire Walls, who's also known as Flossy Knits. And let's just sort out the yarn. This is what it's looking like so far. So as you can see, I've only really done the ribbing, and then I have just started the cable section. So I'll insert a picture here of what this looks like. It's a cable to kind of hat design, and it is knit out of a, I think it's a BFL Mash and Blend. The her one is, and then I'm doing the same. Mine is, let me grab my ball band, if it's here. Oh, it's not here. This is the Bear in Sheep's Clothing Bear Masham DK. So this is what it looks like. And I think this is the colourway Coniferous. And it's just like dark green. It's really beautiful. You can really see in the ribbing, like the kind of all the shades, and that it is hand dyed. It's so lovely. So yeah, this ribbing section is in Twisted Rib, which is knit one through the back loop, purl one through the back loop, and I hadn't done that kind of Twisted Rib before. When I've done Twisted Rib, it's just been knit through the back loop. Oh my god, it took me forever. I took this with me on a work trip to London that the company I work for was doing. We were exhibiting at a show, and I went on the first, I mean I was there for the whole thing, but I went on the first day to set up, and I took this with us because I wasn't driving. And yeah, it was some good knitting to have there, because I was like, you know, obviously talking to people, and then in the evenings when we were like back at our Airbnb, it was just nice to have something that was like something like ribbing or stockinette to work on. So yeah, that is progress. I have to admit, I did put that down to work on my boyfriend's hat, just because he wanted it before Christmas if possible. Whereas my aunt has plenty of hats. She doesn't need one to keep out the cold. She's got loads, and I was always planning on giving this to her at Christmas. So yeah, really enjoying this, and then probably once I finish the sleeve on my Talvinen, I'll get back to this, but this is going to be quite quick, I think. It's once you get used to it, it's really intuitive. The stitch pattern, it's really simple, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing this one finished. So yeah, that is all the knitting works in progress and finished objects. Let's talk about some acquisitions. So I've only got a few to talk about, because I've been trying to be good and not buy too much yarn, because I don't need any, and I try to only buy things if I've got a project in mind, basically. So first off, I can blame this purchase entirely on Rebecca from the Clear Bear podcast. I think that's how you pronounce it. And it is a this has got the label on upside down, a woolly knit cone. So I also have seen these on Heather, Kat from Heather and Hops. She talks about these. She's talked about them before. These are very affordable if you're in the UK. Cones of yarn, and this is 500 grams of fingering weight British wool, and this cost me a grand total of £18. Given in mind that, given the fact even that I could spend £18 on a single skein of 100 grams of fingering weight yarn, and that's like maybe a medium to higher end price. This is exceptionally good value. Yeah, and they come in hanks, but they also do come in these 500 gram cones, similar to Jameson and Smith's and Jameson's of Shetland's cones. And this is the colourway Cinnamon. I'm really sorry, I don't think the lighting in here is the best. It's getting darker by the minute. But yeah, it's this like really beautiful, like browny, reddy colour. And I bought this with a project in mind. Oh, just look at it. It's so beautiful. Seriously would recommend, if you're in the UK or it's not too unaffordable, I would really recommend trying this. It feels so lovely. Yeah, so I bought this with the Sarah sweater in mind, which I first saw on Inga from Knitting Traditions podcast. I'm sure you'll all watch her. She's very famous. She knit this sweater a few months ago and I loved it. I loved that it was like a turtleneck. I own quite a few turtleneck jumpers like this one. This one isn't handmade. I bought this in a charity shop a few weeks ago. It's 100% wool though. It's like very much vintage M&S. It was a £5. So I was loving that because it's quite smart, so I can wear it for work. So yeah, I'm gonna knit the Sarah by, I can't remember the pattern designer, but I'll have it linked down below. It's a turtleneck design with raglan, kind of like a raglan feature, and then it's got quite a deep or long section of ribbing, and it's got a split hem. It's really beautiful. It looks really like elegant and quite like smart, but I love the colour that I'm planning on knitting this in. So that jumper is knit out of a strand of, the original sample is knit out of a strand of tuku wool fingering and silk mohair from, I think she uses Ishiga or Isaiah in the original one, but I am planning on using some from Knitting for Olive. This is the colourway Rust, and this is 70% mohair, 30% silk, traceable to farm reach standard. I don't mean this in a judgy way, but and like this isn't me saying being judgmental towards anyone else, but I personally don't want to knit with, I personally like knitting with mohair that is at least somewhat traceable. It's obviously, I'm not perfect, I don't do that all the time, but if it's within my budget at the time, that's what I try to do. And yeah, that's not, I don't mean that in a judgmental way at all. Like, everyone has their own personal preference, and it's can be limited by cost, and knitting needs to be an accessible hobby for people. But for my personal preference, if I can afford to, I like to buy Knitting for Olive because I know it's traceable. It's a Danish company, and yeah, this is the colourway Rust. So I held these two together for my swatch. As you can see, this is slightly more red and this is slightly more brown. And this is what the colour came out as. So, oh, it's just so beautiful. It feels quite soft. I have blocked this just to make sure I got gauge. And I wanted to check, I haven't bought the full amount of this yet, just because it's quite a big investment, and I wanted to make sure that I liked the colour combination basically, because they are slightly different, and I love the colour combination. So I just need to go ahead and get the silk mohair, and yeah, this is the resulting fabric. I think it's so lovely, and yeah, I'm just really excited to knit that. So that was acquisition number 1. Thank you, Rebecca, for influencing not just me but many other people. The second one is I went to Oxford a few weeks ago. We went for my boyfriend's birthday. He'd never been before. I've been a few times, and it's a really lovely city. And yeah, he'd never been before, so that's where he wanted to go for his birthday. So we went for the weekend. I think we had like 2 full days there. And we left quite early on Friday morning, and we came back kind of like mid-Monday afternoon. And Oxford has a really nice yarn shop called, I think it's the Oxford Yarn Store, and it's slightly out of the centre of town. It's up towards like Summertown, which is where we were staying, and it's really lovely. I'd been there before, when I was last visiting Oxford to meet a friend, because it was near where we were going for lunch, and just happened to find out that there was a yarn shop there. So yeah, I wanted to go back, and luckily my boyfriend was very accommodating and said, yeah, of course we can go. That sounds like he never wants to go in a yarn shop, but it was his birthday weekend, so I didn't want to, drag him around loads of like places that he probably wasn't that interested in, when it was his birthday and he hadn't been before. So we just popped in, and I bought a skein of Amble by the Fibre Company, which is a sock yarn, and this is a conscious blend of washable merino wool, alpaca and recycled nylon. So this is something I've knit with before. I've knit with it twice before when knitting socks for gifts for other people, and I'd never knit it into something for myself. So I thought, actually, that's something I really want to try because their merino is traceable, the nylon's recyclable, and then it's also superwash, but it's supposed to be a slightly more environmentally friendly superwash treatment. I think they call it, yeah, they call it easy wash, I believe. Yeah, they call it they've processed with an eco-friendly anti-shrinkage easy wash treatment. And yeah, then the nylon is recycled. So I think this is like a really interesting composition. I know, so I've knit a pair of socks for my aunt and a pair of socks for my mum out of this yarn before, and my aunt has said it's worn really well and washed really well. So I just wanted to try it for myself. And this is the colourway Appleby, which is this really beautiful, like dark red, almost slightly purplish colour. It's lovely. I don't know what I'm going to knit out of this yet. Maybe one of this Handmade Life's patterns. I can't remember her name, I'm so sorry, but I'll link her down below. She's got some really nice patterns that are just quite simple and textured, so I might knit one of those, but that probably won't be until the new year. But I just wanted to pick something up whilst I was there. So that's acquisition number 2. And then the third acquisition is also a sock yarn, and as I spoke about earlier, I really love Emma from Woolly Mammoth Fibre Company's yarns. I've used them a lot. She was really the first hand dyer / yarn producer that I really fell in love with when I really got into knitting last year and kind of discovered the knitting community. And I loved Emma's podcast. I like watched all of them, and I bought her yarn a few times. It's beautiful, I love it. And she announced that she was bringing out a new sock base. So this is the half sock, and it is different to her other one in that it's slightly thicker, and it is 50% Jacob and 50% BFL. It's source spun and made in the UK. As with all of Emma's yarns, it's naturally dyed, and this is the colourway Rust 1. I'd say it's not really a rust, I'd say it's more of a pinky colour. The lighting is really bad, I'm really sorry. It's getting dark really quickly, so I'm going to try and speed things up because otherwise you can't see things properly. But this is, yeah, it's more of like a pinky colourway, almost a bit like this kind of shade on my blanket, this wool blanket. But it's really lovely, and I've never worked with Jacobs before, Jacob fleece. I'd really love to. There's a West Yorkshire Spinners Jacob, like 100% Jacob fleece yarn that I really want to try. And I know also Emma from Woolly Mammoth has done Jacob's yarn before, so I would definitely something I'd really like to try. I know a lot of people really love it. It's quite rustic, which I love. But yeah, this is, as I said, 50% BFL, 50% Jacob, and it is, yeah, slightly thicker. It's 330 meters to 100 grams, as opposed to like a typical 400 meters to 100 grams. And yeah, non-superwash, no nylon. I'm so excited to try this. I was kind of thinking about maybe trying to get 2 skeins, but Emma's shop updates sell out so quickly. And I was just like, oh, you know what, I'll be good. I'll just get one, leave it for other people to enjoy. And I've got lots of sock yarn. I don't need loads more, but I did really want to try this because I wanted to try Emma's new sock yarn, because I've been ever since she announced it, I've been so excited for it. And again, don't know what pattern I'll knit with this. Probably something textured. I think that would be nice. Maybe something with a bit of cables, or like a bit of a like stitch definition, stitch cable, stitch pattern, not colour work, because I only have one skein, but yeah, and probably not something vanilla, just because I quite like to keep my interest going. But yeah, if you've got any recommendations, or if you manage to get some of this and you've already started working with it, let me know how you're finding it. Yeah, just really excited to try it, and yeah, hopefully looking forward to Emma bringing out some more colours of this. I know she's on maternity leave now, so that won't be until next year, but yeah, really excited to try this. So that is all the knitting. If you're going to leave me here, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. If you're going to stick around for the sewing, then let's get on with it. So I have 2 sewing projects to talk about. Sorry, I'm just getting off camera to grab them. The first one is a bit of a fail, and I think it's good to talk about fails in like your creative pursuits. I think it can be really easy to see everyone's perfect projects and think, oh, I just wish I never made mistakes. But actually, I think it's really important to acknowledge that a lot of us do make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes we're happy with and we can live with them, and sometimes we want to completely restart a project. And I think with sewing in particular, because you've already cut something out, sometimes those mistakes just aren't fixable. And whereas with knitting, sometimes, unless you've like steeked a garment, you can kind of fix it. It's just a lot of work. So this isn't a mistake per se, but it's just something a bit silly. So if you watched my last episode, you'll have known that I started a Cornell shirt for my boyfriend for his birthday, which has already been. It was at the end of November. And I haven't given this to him yet because I made it a size too small. So the reason this happened is because the Cornell shirt is designed to have a lot of positive ease. He didn't want that amount of positive ease. He wanted a much smaller amount of positive ease. So I made him the size that would give him the amount of ease that he wanted. And I thought, great, that's fine. I don't need to do any more thinking about it. I'll just make that size. I didn't think that maybe the neck measurement would change and that the shoulders, these are all really silly mistakes, I am aware. I just didn't really fully think it through. I just thought, right, chest dimension, that's fine. Then he comes to try it on when he was here, and it doesn't fit. It doesn't go button up around his neck. It like won't even fit, and it's also too tight on his shoulders. It does fit, it's just too tight on the shoulders and like on the arms. There isn't really enough room like here. Like it's just too tight on the shoulders and it doesn't fit on the neck. So bless him, I was quite upset because it was like my own fault. I should have just thought about it a bit more and kind of planned it a bit more thoroughly. And he was like, oh, I'll still wear it, I just won't wear it buttoned up. Which was very sweet of him. But I think, and so I will still give it to him because, as he said, he will wear it, like just with not buttoning it up, or maybe like buttoned up to like here. But because of the way that the collar is, it's a grandpa collar, it kind of just looks a bit odd if you don't button it up, I think. But bless him, he said he's going to wear it anyway. So this kind of, once he tried it on, this was the stage I was at, by the way, when this happened. I've like basically finished it. I just need to do sew the buttons on. I've done the buttonholes, I've hemmed it. Everything is French seamed. So I just kind of lost momentum, and I haven't finished it yet. And all I have got to do is the buttons, but I think before Christmas I'll sew the buttons on, I'll give it to him, he can wear it unbuttoned, and what I'm going to do is sew him a new one with the correct amount of ease and make the size that I should have made him in the first place. Probably do a bit more fitting as I'm sewing it, instead of just doing French seams regardless. And yeah, then we won't have that mistake again. But yeah, it still turned out really nicely, and I'm still really happy with it. I think it will be a really nice shirt for me. It fits me fine. But yeah, you can't really see it very well here. I will insert a photo of the pattern if I haven't already. But yeah, I just thought it was kind of, I'd already spoken about it on the podcast. I was like, oh, maybe I just won't mention it again. But then I thought, oh no, I should. You know, it's important to acknowledge these things. And I'll be making him another version in the new year anyway. What's a shame is, he chose this fabric himself because it's like one of his favourite colours, and now this fabric is out of stock and I can't find anything similar in this colour. So I think I'm gonna have to make the shirt in a slightly different colour, which is a bit of a shame because he really loves this colour. Or I'll just keep my eye out. I can make him one in the new year, and then in maybe like a slightly different shade of green, and then if I ever see something like this again, I can remake it. But yeah, so this is the Cornell Shirt by LB Textiles. The fabric was a cotton and linen blend from Fabric Godmother, and it's really lovely to work with. It's quite fray, as those kind of blends usually are. But yeah, I just feel like I had to admit it to you guys. So that was finished. I took a bit of a break from sewing because I was feeling a bit unmotivated and I had a lot of gift knitting to do. And then I decided that I would cut out my next sewing project. So I am going to make a zero waist dress. The designer is Brigitte or Brigitte something. I'll leave it down below. It's quite a popular pattern on Instagram. So I have cut out all my pattern pieces. This is a pattern which you basically choose the width of fabric that you want, and then you cut out the pieces from like a grid layout. I don't want to go too much into detail because it is a paid for pattern. And yeah, I am making it out of a really beautiful dead stock cotton voile that I bought from a shop called the New Craft House, which is based in London, but they also have an online shop. And it is this like really beautiful like tartan. So it's like a navy and black, and it's pretty sheer. I don't know if I'm going to be able to wear this on its own or if I'll have to wear something under it, because as you can see, it is really like quite sheer. But because the zero waist dress has a lot of zero waist gather dress, sorry, it has a lot of gathers in it. So I'm not sure if maybe because it's gathered it will be okay. I'm not sure. All I've done so far is cut out my pieces. I haven't started assembling it yet. The cutting out did take a while. It's a lot of, because you don't just trace the pattern, you draw direct. You can either trace the pattern pieces or draw the shapes directly onto your fabric. So I just drew the shapes directly on. I followed the cutting instructions and went from there. And so that took me about an evening, and yeah, that was earlier this week, and so I'm hopefully going to start sewing it next week because I'm really busy this weekend. And then yeah, I hopefully have that ready for Christmas. Whew, so that's all my sewing. I've got a few other things I'd really love to sew before Christmas, but I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, hopefully over the Christmas break, when I've got some time off work, I can get some sewing for myself done. And also for my dad's birthday, which was in September, I said I would sew him a waistcoat. That's what he wanted. I asked him if he'd like something really nice and special, and I'd make it for him, and he said could he have a waistcoat. I bought all the fabric. I bought some very expensive wool from Merchant and Mills, that is from Harris. It's Harris tweed, and I haven't sewn it, so I'm in the bad books with him. No, he's fine. He's very understanding. Like, I work full time. Sewing is my hobby. It's not my job. I have to remind myself. But I would really like to get at least started on it before Christmas, because I'm definitely going to be making a toile so that I can get the fit perfect. And also it would be my first time sewing welt pockets. So I want to do like a lot of practice on that. So yeah, I really should also get started on that. Bless him, he's been waiting 4 months already. So yeah, that is all my sewing. Let's move on quickly to some reading. So this is going to be very brief, because I am slowly, or very speedily even, losing the light. So I finally finished The Light Years by Elizabeth Jane Howard. This is the first book in the Cazalet Chronicles. I've spoken about these in both my first 2 episodes, and it is about a family called the Cazalet family. They're quite well off, and they kind of made their money through the wood, or like the yeah, like the wood and timber industry. And this first book is set just before World War II, and it kind of follows all the family. There's 3 brothers and their wives and their children, and you've also got the 3 brothers and their sister, parents, and it's really interesting. I love it. I love anything about family dynamics and dysfunctional families and historical fiction as well, and I really enjoyed this. I did have to put it down for a bit because there's something quite tragic happens, I suppose, halfway through, or something that I just wasn't really expecting to happen. So I had to take a little bit of a break for a few days, and then I got back into it, and I really, really enjoyed this. I've already bought the second one. I bought it in Oxford while we were there, and I will probably start reading it over Christmas when, again, I've got this time off that I'm sure I'm not the only one. Really look forward, if you're able to have time off for the holidays. I'm sure we all look forward to it, and we plan all these things that we're going to do, as well as seeing all these people, and it never quite happens, but I am hoping I'll get some reading done. And yeah, I really enjoyed this and I'd really recommend it. And now that I finished the first book, I'm going to watch the mini-series that they made in the early 2000s as well. I think it's got Hugh Bonneville in it and Stacey from Gavin and Stacey, which is a British TV programme. So yeah, really enjoyed this. So after I finished this, I started reading An Expert in Murder by Nicola Upson, and this is like a cozy crime novel, and that's a genre I really enjoy. My mum really enjoys it as well, so I think I probably inherited it from her. And this is about the crime writer Josephine Tey. She was writing in the 30s and 40s, I believe, and she's quite a well-known golden age crime writer. And this book series follows her as the detective in murder cases, she's obviously not the detective, but you know, the sleuth. And I'm really enjoying it. I have only read the first 74 pages, but yeah, really enjoying it so far. I just haven't had a lot of time. So if you like 1930s crime, I'd really recommend this. And yeah, I'll keep you posted. Oh, so yeah, that is everything. I wanted to kind of just wrap things up quickly because it's getting so much darker, but yeah, I thought I'd talk a little bit, only for a few minutes, about kind of life stuff, if that's what you're interested in, and yeah, just about maybe what I've got going on for Christmas. So yeah, if you're interested, keep on watching. If you're not, I totally understand. Oh, it's gone cold, but it's still quite nice. So yeah, it's 3rd of December now, so we're kind of into Advent. I'm not religious, but my family are, so I was raised in like a fairly Christian household, so I'm quite familiar with all the Advent tradition, like the Christian Advent traditions. So yeah, it's always like a really nice time of year. I love Christmas. This weekend I've got one of my best friends visiting. She lives up in the north, and we met through university, and yeah, she's someone, one of my other best friends still lives here in Bristol, and yeah, she's coming down to visit, so that is so nice. I haven't really seen her since the summer, so I'm really looking forward to seeing her. We're going to go on a wreath making course tomorrow, and it's a course where you gather the materials yourself, so it's like a foraging / wreath making course. So yeah, really looking forward to that. That's exactly the kind of thing I enjoy. And then we've got one of our friends' gigs in the evening, so I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, I think we're also going to go to a Christmas market that's somewhere local, to like a local market. It is having their Christmas market, so I think we're going to go to that on the Sunday. And yeah, just have a really nice time and probably drink mulled wine and just catch up. And what else have I got going on? Just work, really. I've got a few gigs. My boyfriend, he's also a musician, and he's got a gig on Monday in Bristol, so I'm going to be going to that. and yeah, just nice celebratory times. I'm going down to London in a few weeks to meet up with a few friends from my postgrad. So yeah, that would be really nice to see them. And yeah, one of them I haven't seen for ages, and we're going to go out for dinner, or lunch even. I don't think I'll have any time to go to any wool shops, sadly, because I'm going with friends that don't knit. So I don't want to really drag them around a wool shop. But yeah, be just nice to be in the capital again. So my phone just cut out, which is why you can see a bit of a difference in quality and the lighting. It was really getting so dark, so I'm sorry. I hope you could see everything. Yeah, and I think I was just telling you about what we were doing for Christmas in the next few weeks. Yeah, I've got some annual leave that I am taking, and I'm gonna go home and decorate the Christmas tree with my mum. So that will be really nice. And then, yeah, then I've just got a few weeks left before I've got some time off for Christmas. And I'm sure we'll get up to lots of festive things. And I'm trying to film some stuff to put at the end of the videos. I forgot last time, but I will have some stuff for this week's episode. And yeah, I thought I'd also just quickly say I'm planning to film every 3 weeks. Every 2 weeks is a bit like too frequently, I think. Like that would be ideal, but it just doesn't really, it means I don't have enough to show you, especially this time of the year when there's a lot else going on. So yeah, and yeah, I hope you're enjoying all the vlogmases if you're watching any. Quite a few knitting podcasters are doing it this year, which I am so enjoying. I love vlogmas. I find it just really relaxing. And yeah, I'm gonna go and get on with some knitting and maybe some sewing and maybe finishing the hem on my Talvinen. And yeah, let me know what you've been working on in the comments down below. Let me know what your holiday traditions are, whatever holiday you celebrate. Yeah, it'd just be lovely to know. Have you had any snow in the UK? We have had some, but not in Bristol. There's been some in Scotland and in the north of England. There's actually quite a bad storm called Storm Arwen, I believe that was the name, that really wreaked havoc with a lot of things up north. We were really fortunate we didn't get that down here. So yeah, luckily we haven't been impacted too much by the weather. But I hope you're all staying safe and